Impeachment is back on the table, and this isn't some fringe theory that's going nowhere. This time, we're talking about 140 members of Congress voting to move ahead with impeaching Donald Trump once again. Yes, you heard that correctly. 140 lawmakers just voted yes to impeach the president. And now, as the 2026 campaign season begins to heat up, the Senate is facing the reality of yet another impeachment trial. But before we continue, let's be honest for a moment. Trust in inside the Capitol has all but disappeared. And if you want to support what we're building here, join us. Become part of a community that actually values the truth. Now, let's get back to it. The question now concerns the second article of impeachment. Senators, how do you vote? Is the respondent, Donald John Trump, guilty or not guilty? The clerk will proceed with the roll call. Mr. Alexander, not guilty. Miss Baldwin, guilty. Mr. Barrasso, not guilty. Mr. Bennett, guilty. Mrs. Blackburn, not guilty. Mr. Blumenthal, guilty. Mr. Blunt, not guilty. Mr. Booker, guilty. Mr. Boozman, not guilty. Mr. Braun, not guilty. Mr. Brown, guilty. Mr. Burr, not guilty. Ms. Cantwell, guilty. Mrs. Capito, not guilty. Mr. Cardin, guilty. Mr. Carper, guilty. Mr. Casey, guilty. Mr. Cassidy, not guilty. Ms. Collins, not guilty. Mr. Coons, guilty. Mr. Cornyn, not guilty. Ms. Cortez Masto, guilty. Mr. Cotton, not guilty. Mr. Kramer, not guilty. Mr. Crapo, not guilty. Mr. Cruz. So here's how it unfolded. Democratic Congressman Al Green of Texas has been pushing hard to impeach Trump, and on December 11th, he forced the issue with a vote in the House. Technically, the House voted to table his impeachment resolution, meaning it was blocked from moving forward right away. In fact, Democratic leadership teamed up with Republicans to shut it down. But here's where things get interesting. Even with that, 140 members still voted to advance it. That's a huge number, and it's significantly higher than a similar vote back in June. Put that into context for a second. This wasn't just a few progressive hardliners making a symbolic statement. This was nearly 1/3 of the entire House saying, yes, we should impeach Trump right now. That's not insignificant. That's a serious block of Congress willing to put a sitting president on trial. And as for Al Green, he's not backing off. He delivered an incredibly fiery speech on the House floor, accusing Trump of normalizing political violence and announcing what he called a countdown to impeachment. He said he plans to file additional articles before the Christmas recess because, his words, we cannot allow him to normalize the idea that members of Congress can be threatened simply for disagreeing with him. Let that sink in for a moment. A sitting member of Congress is openly stating that the president has helped make threats against lawmakers seem acceptable. That isn't exaggeration. It isn't political showmanship. It's a direct charge that Trump has crossed a line by making political violence feel normal. And 140 members of Congress thought it was serious enough to vote for impeachment. Now, here's where it gets really intriguing. This isn't Green's first attempt. He's introduced multiple articles of impeachment against Trump this year. One accused Trump of abusing presidential power. Another claimed he overstepped Congress's authority to declare war. So there's a growing stack of impeachment efforts in the 119th Congress, and each time more lawmakers are jumping on board. Sure, House leadership shut this one down, but the momentum keeps building. And that puts the Senate in a tough spot. If the House actually passes articles of impeachment, the Senate faces a choice: hold a trial or quietly bury it. Either option is political dynamite. If they hold a trial, it dominates the news cycle for weeks or months. It becomes the only thing anyone talks about. Trump's agenda grinds to a halt. Republicans running in swing districts have to defend him on the record. And all the ugliest parts of Trump's behavior get aired out in public hearings for everyone to see. But if they bury it, if they refuse to hold a trial or just quickly vote to acquit without looking at the evidence, they look like they're covering up for Trump. They look like they're putting party over country. And that could energize Democrats and independents heading into 2026. So senators are stuck, and you can already see the posturing as lawmakers try to figure out which path hurts them the least. Some are quietly hoping the House never actually passes impeachment so they can dodge the decision. Others are prepping talking points about how it's just a partisan witch hunt. And a few may be weighing whether this is finally their chance to break with Trump without getting annihilated by his base. Here's the kicker. This impeachment push isn't happening in a vacuum. It's unfolding alongside other scandals. The Epstein files cover-up, Kennedy Center corruption, DOJ stonewalling. Democrats are building a narrative. Trump and his allies are corrupt. They think they're above the law. They're threatening democracy. And Congress has to act. Green explicitly ties his impeachment effort to this broader accountability issue. He's saying, if we don't hold Trump responsible for normalizing political violence, abusing power, and more, we're sending a message that presidents can do whatever they want. And that message, it's dangerous. So buckle up because things are about to get intense. We're going to break down exactly what Green is accusing Trump of. We'll explore why 140 members voted for impeachment, unpack the Senate's impossible choices, and explain what all of this could mean for 2026 and beyond. Let's dive in. To really understand what's happening, we need to rewind and look at Al Green's impeachment campaign. It didn't start in December. Green has been pushing to impeach Trump for months, filing multiple resolutions with different accusations. The first major one focused on Trump allegedly abusing presidential power. Green argued that Trump was using the office to enrich himself, punish political opponents, and undermine democratic institutions. Standard impeachment territory, right? But at first, it didn't gain much traction. Most Democrats were wary of impeachment, fearing Trump's fervent base could be further energized. Then Green filed another resolution accusing Trump of usurping Congress's power to declare war. This one focused on foreign policy decisions, arguing that Trump was committing the military without congressional approval, a legitimate constitutional concern. Again, initial support was limited. But then things shifted. Over the summer and fall, Trump's rhetoric became increasingly extreme. He openly talked about jailing political opponents and made comments that seemed to encourage violence against lawmakers who opposed him. Green seized on this. Political violence became the centerpiece of his latest impeachment push. In late November and early December, Green delivered a series of floor speeches that were nothing short of scathing. He accused Trump of normalizing political violence and making it seem acceptable to threaten members of Congress with physical harm if they voted the wrong way. He specifically called out Trump's rhetoric about hanging lawmakers who don't fall in line. Now, you might be asking, did Trump literally say he wants to hang members of Congress? It's complicated. Trump often uses what experts call stochastic terrorism. He doesn't issue direct calls for violence, but he says things that signal to his supporters that violent actions are justified. He'll make statements like, these lawmakers are traitors, and then leave the rest implied, what's traditionally done to traitors, without ever spelling it out. He doesn't have to say, go hang them, because his supporters get the message, and it works. We've seen an explosion in threats against lawmakers, especially Democrats and Republicans who criticize Trump. Capitol Police have documented hundreds of serious threats. Some lawmakers have needed security details, and all of it traces back to Trump's rhetoric about those lawmakers being enemies of the people. So Green is saying enough is enough. This is impeachable. A president can't be allowed to create an environment where his supporters think it's okay to threaten violence against Congress. That's a fundamental threat to democracy. That's the president attacking a co-equal branch of government. The December 11th vote was supposed to force the issue. Green used a procedural maneuver that forced the House to vote on his impeachment resolution within days. No more kicking the can down the road. No more letting leadership quietly set it aside. The House had to take a clear position. And here's what happened. Democratic leadership voted to table the resolution. They're not ready to fully commit to impeachment. It's politically risky. They're worried about losing moderate voters and about the whole thing backfiring like it did during Trump's first term. But here's the kicker. 140 members defied leadership and voted to advance impeachment. That's more than double the number who supported it back in June. It's a massive surge in momentum, and it signals that the Democratic base is furious and demanding action. Who makes up these 140 members? It's a mix. On one side, you've got the progressive wing, figures like AOC and the Squad, who have been pushing for accountability from the very start. But you've also got more moderate lawmakers from competitive districts willing to take a political risk. because they believe impeachment is the right move. That's what makes this different from previous attempts. This isn't just the far left acting alone. It's a broad coalition, including members who usually avoid controversy, which tells you just how serious things have become. Now let's break down what could happen if the House actually passes articles of impeachment, because that possibility is looking more real by the day. If Green keeps building support, if a few more scandals break, if Trump's rhetoric gets even more extreme, we could hit a tipping point where a majority of the House says, okay, we have to do this. If that happens, it goes to the Senate. And the Senate has to hold a trial. That's in the Constitution. They can't just ignore it. The Senate could make the trial short and mostly symbolic, basically just voting to acquit without seriously weighing the evidence. That's exactly what happened during Trump's first impeachment. But they can't do nothing. And this is where it gets politically tricky. Senate Republicans are terrified of impeachment. Most don't want to defend Trump's actions on the record, but even more, they fear angering his base if they vote to convict. It's a catch-22 that makes every decision politically explosive. You're going to see a lot of posturing. Senators saying things like, I haven't seen all the evidence yet, and I'll keep an open mind, and all the usual political doublespeak. But in reality, most Republicans are likely to vote to acquit no matter what. Party loyalty has become stronger than anything else. The real question is whether any Republicans will break ranks. During Trump's second impeachment, 7 Republican senators voted to convict. That came after January 6th, when the evidence was overwhelming and there was genuine outrage over Trump inciting the Capitol attack. Could we see something similar this time? Probably not. Those 7 senators paid a steep political price. Some retired rather than face Trump-backed primary challengers. Others are still dealing with threats from his supporters. The takeaway for most Republicans: don't cross Trump. It's just not worth it. But here's the twist. The 2026 midterms are approaching. If public opinion shifts, if independents start seeing Trump as a threat, the calculation could change. Senators care about re-election above all else. And if defending Trump risks their seats, some might finally consider voting to convict. That's what Democrats are betting on. They're hoping that by holding impeachment hearings, by putting all of Trump's worst behavior on display, by making Republicans vote on the record to protect him, they can shift public opinion enough to win in 2026. Now, let's connect this to the other scandals happening right now, because impeachment doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's part of a larger narrative that Democrats are building about Trump being corrupt and lawless. You've got the Epstein files cover-up with Trump and his attorney general allegedly hiding evidence about powerful people involved in sex trafficking. You've got the Kennedy Center corruption with Trump ally Grinnell allegedly giving away millions in public funds to political allies. And now you've got impeachment over political violence. All of these stories feed into each other, painting a picture of an administration that acts as if it's above the law. And that's exactly the narrative Democrats plan to run on in 2026. They'll argue Trump is corrupt, his allies are corrupt, and they think they can do whatever they want. Vote for us to restore accountability. The impeachment push is the sharpest tool in that fight. If Congress declares this behavior impeachable, it sends a powerful message. This isn't normal. It isn't acceptable. This is a president who by law should be removed. Even if the Senate doesn't convict, even if Trump stays in office, the impeachment itself matters. It matters because it puts Republicans on record. It matters because it dominates headlines. It matters because it shapes public perception of Trump and his party. Al Green understands this. That's why he's relentless. He's not naive enough to expect the Senate to convict. But he knows the process itself has value. Forcing votes, holding hearings, making people defend the indefensible, all of that carries political weight. The fact that 140 members supported him shows more Democrats are coming around to this view. They see that playing it safe, avoiding controversy isn't working. Trump is still doing harmful things. His supporters are still making threats. And if Congress doesn't use its constitutional powers to check him, what's the point of having them? We're heading into a collision course. Green promises more impeachment articles before Christmas. Support in the House is growing. The Senate is bracing for impact. And Trump, true to form, is doubling down on the same rhetoric that got him in trouble. The next few weeks are crucial. If Green can sway a few more members, if another scandal breaks, or if Trump says something so outrageous that even moderate Democrats feel compelled to act, we could see articles of impeachment actually pass the House. And if that happens, all hell breaks loose. The Senate must hold a trial. The 2026 campaign season will revolve around impeachment. And we're back in the chaos of Trump's first term, where every day is a new crisis and almost nothing else gets done. Let's break this down into the core pieces so you can really see what's at stake. At its heart, this is about whether Congress still has the power to check the president. That's the whole point of impeachment. The founders gave Congress this tool to remove presidents who abuse their authority. But if Congress never uses it, or if the Senate always acquits along party lines, then what's the point of having it at all? Trump has pushed the boundaries of presidential power like no one before him. He's done things past presidents wouldn't have dared, and he's gotten away with almost all of it, thanks to Republican protection and Democrats' hesitation to act decisively. So the question becomes, does Congress still matter, or has the presidency become so powerful that nothing can stop it? Al Green is saying Congress has to reassert itself, has to use impeachment the way it was intended, as a check on executive overreach and abuse. And 140 members agree with him. That's not a majority yet, but it's getting closer. Here's the thing. If Congress doesn't act now, if they allow Trump to normalize political violence and abuse of power, the next president will push even further. They'll see that there are no consequences, that Congress is essentially toothless. And that's how democracies erode, not with a bang, but slowly, as checks and balances weaken until there's almost nothing left. Green is serious when he says Trump is normalizing the idea that you can threaten or even hang members of Congress for their votes. And he's not exaggerating. Trump's rhetoric has grown increasingly violent. His supporters have picked up on it, and lawmakers are genuinely concerned for their safety. This should actually be a bipartisan concern. Republicans are at risk too, especially those who have criticized Trump. Liz Cheney needed a security detail. Adam Kinzinger received death threats. Sure, Democrats face the brunt of it, but the danger is real for members across the aisle. When Green says this is impeachable, he means a president cannot be allowed to create an environment where his political opponents fear for their lives. That's not democracy, it's authoritarianism. And if Congress doesn't draw the line here, where do they? The problem is, most Republicans won't acknowledge this. They'll claim the threats are isolated incidents, that it's not Trump's fault, just crazy people doing crazy things. But that's nonsense. When the president constantly labels his opponents as traitors and enemies and hints at punishment, he's cultivating a climate of violence, and he knows exactly what he's doing. Point 3, the Senate's calculation is fascinating because they're caught between two terrible options: hold a serious trial and risk alienating Trump's base, or bury it quickly and look like they're covering up. Most senators are probably hoping the House never passes articles of impeachment so they can avoid making the choice. But if it does come to them, they'll have to pick a side. And that decision could shape the 2026 elections. Imagine you're a Republican senator in a swing state: Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Arizona, Nevada. You've got a close race coming up. If you vote to convict Trump, his base will primary you or just stay home in November. But if you vote to acquit, especially if the evidence is really damning, independents might punish you for enabling him. That's a no-win situation. And it's why Republican senators are probably privately furious at Al Green for putting them in this position. They don't want to defend Trump's behavior, but they don't have the courage to stand up to him either. Now, could we see any Republican senators vote to convict this time? Maybe, if public opinion really shifts. If Trump does something so outrageous between now and the trial that it becomes politically safer to vote against him than for him. But don't count on it. The party is still completely in Trump's grip. Point 4. This ties into all the other scandals in a crucial way. Democrats are building a comprehensive case that Trump and his administration are fundamentally corrupt and above the law. The Epstein files about hiding evidence and protecting powerful elites, the Kennedy Center about using public resources for political gain, the impeachment about normalizing political violence and abusing power. Each scandal reinforces the others. And Democrats are smart to connect the dots because voters might shrug off a single story, but a consistent pattern of corruption is harder to ignore. It's like death by 1,000 cuts. Every new revelation makes the previous ones more credible. So when Al Green talks about impeachment, he's not just talking about a set of articles. He's talking about a president who repeatedly shows he thinks he's above the law. And that's the story Democrats want to run with in 2026. Now, the question is, will it work politically? That's the real test. Impeachment didn't work in Trump's first term. He actually got more popular during the process, and his party rallied around him. Could the same thing happen again? Maybe. Trump is really good at playing the victim. He's going to say this is a partisan witch hunt. Democrats are trying to overturn the election. It's all political theater, and his base is going to eat it up. They'll get more energized, more loyal, more convinced the deep state is out to get him. But here's the difference. During Trump's first term, the economy was relatively stable, and most people weren't paying close attention. Now, things are different. People have seen what Trump 2.0 looks like, and there's more buyer's remorse, especially among independents and even some Republicans. That means impeachment might actually cut through this time. It could force the public to confront Trump's behavior in a way they didn't before. If Democrats can keep the focus on his actual misconduct without letting it devolve into a partisan circus, it could influence voters. The key will be how the media covers it. It all comes down to framing. If the media covers it as Democrats launch another partisan impeachment, it's dead on arrival with anyone outside the Democratic base. But if it's framed as president accused of normalizing political violence, 140 lawmakers demand accountability, it has a real chance of resonating. The voices of victims matter too. If members of Congress who've received death threats speak out about the climate Trump has created, that's powerful. If law enforcement officials point to spikes and threats tied to Trump's rhetoric, that's evidence people can't ignore. Al Green is betting that this time could be different. The accumulation of scandals, the escalation of threats, the brazen corruption, they may have reached a tipping point where Congress has to act and the public will back it. Is he right? We're about to find out, because if Green follows through on his promise to file more articles before Christmas, and if support keeps growing, we could see a House impeachment vote in early 2026. And then all eyes turn to the Senate. Here's my take. The House will probably pass articles of impeachment eventually, maybe not this month, but sometime in the first half of 2026. The pressure is building too fast, and Democrats have too many angry voters demanding action. The Senate will hold a perfunctory trial and vote to acquit along party lines, maybe with one or two Republican defections at most. Not enough to convict, but enough to create some political tension within the party. And then it becomes a campaign issue. Democrats run on, we tried to hold Trump accountable, Republicans protected him. Republicans run on, Democrats wasted time on partisan impeachment instead of fixing real problems, and voters decide who they believe. My guess, it helps Democrats more than it hurts them. Impeachment keeps Trump's worst behavior in the headlines. It forces Republicans to defend the indefensible on record. It energizes the Democratic base and gives independents reason to reconsider their support for Trump. But it's risky. If impeachment turns into a circus, or if Democrats overreach and make it too partisan, it could backfire. Trump could play the victim so effectively that he actually gains support. That's exactly what happened last time. The stakes are high. Al Green is forcing a confrontation that will either break Trump's grip on power or strengthen it. There isn't much middle ground. The bottom line, 140 members of Congress just voted to impeach the president. That's not insignificant. It's a substantial portion of the legislative branch signaling that the executive has gone too far. Even if it doesn't lead to removal, it still matters. It matters because it's a statement about standards, about what citizens and lawmakers will and won't tolerate from their leaders. It matters because it shows whether Congress is willing to use its constitutional powers or simply let them fade away. Al Green is betting that Congress still has the courage to check presidential power, that lawmakers will risk political backlash to do the right thing, and that voters will ultimately reward accountability over party loyalty. We'll see if he's right. One thing is certain, the next few months are going to be wild. Impeachment votes, Senate trials, the 2026 campaigns ramping up. It's all happening at once in a pressure cooker of scandals and political violence. So buckle up. American democracy is about to be stress tested in real time, and we're about to find out if the system still works or if it's already too broken to save. If you made it this far, smash that subscribe button. This impeachment fight is just getting started, and we'll be covering every twist and turn.